Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jackson Steger. I am a senior at Duke University, and I'm here with a bunch of friends, and we're here to answer all of the questions that I'm sure you have about coming to Duke. Congratulations so much on being accepted, and we can't wait to have you here. So we're going to go around. We're going to introduce a little bit about ourselves, and then we'll answer all the questions that you have, so feel free to go ahead and start commenting those below. Like I said, my name's Jackson. I'm a senior studying public policy, pursuing certificates in arts of the moving image and policy journalism and media studies. Outside of school, I love to play basketball, I love to play Frisbee, and I love to make movies.
Hi guys, my name is Soren Chargois. I'm a senior studying visual media studies and economics with a certificate in innovation and entrepreneurship. When I'm not at Coco Cinnamon, a cafe off campus, drowning in work, I am either reading books, hanging out with friends, or crocheting, which is like my favorite pastime in the world. At Duke, I've been involved a lot with Duke student broadcasting, which I can talk more about later if you're interested. The Catholic Center, I spent 2 years in a sorority and then 2 years not in one, so I have experience with that too. And Anya?
Hi everyone, my name is Anya. I'm a junior. I'm from South Carolina and I'm studying psychology with a minor in computer science and a certificate in innovation and entrepreneurship. When I'm not studying, I am really involved with business-oriented women on campus. I also work with Here at Duke, which is the podcast organization for Duke. And I went abroad last semester. So you can ask me about study abroad. I did the Duke in Madrid program.
Great. Anya, thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you, Soren. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into food. So people want to know, what's our favorite food on and off campus? So I actually just came from a food truck situation that was happening outside of my apartment. And it was like this Korean barbecue thing. But that's not like a regular happening. That was just for this special event that they were throwing. It was free though. Normally, I'm a big fan of this place called Tandoor, which is inside West Union. So West Union is this big conglomerate of awesome food places that are all staffed by local Durham vendors. And they have Indian food, which is what Tandoor is, and a steakhouse, an Italian place, a burrito place, ABP, like farm, natural, organic situations. But I like Tandoor, specifically the tiki masala. That's some pretty yummy stuff. Anya, how about you?
That's hard for me because I love food. In terms of food trucks, so we have food trucks come 5 days a week to right outside of the Wellness Center on campus, on West Campus. And so there's one that's American Meltdown, which is a grilled cheese food truck, and they have a buffalo chicken grilled cheese that will change your life. And the nice thing about all of this is that because they come to campus, it's included on Food Points, which is the way that you essentially buy food on campus. And so it's included in your dining plan. And I love grilled cheese. So that is probably my number one. But because that's only once a week, I would say my other favorite would have to be Commons, which is a restaurant on top of West Union or the Broadhead Center. And it's also on Food Points, and you can flunch your professors there, which essentially means you have funds to take your professors to lunch and you can eat with them. And it's sort of a fine dining restaurant, and it's a lot of fun. It has beautiful views of the rest of campus.
So interestingly enough, I ended up being vegan this semester, completely unexpectedly, just did it with a friend and ended up loving it. And I've had to kind of explore new options on campus. And one fave that I discovered literally last week is the veggie burger that they have for Meatless Mondays at the Craft House, which is in, West Union / Broadhead Center, what both Jackson and Anya talked about. Yes, seriously, the veggie burger there. And then off campus, like I mentioned, like 2 minutes ago, Coco Cinnamon is this like indie trendy cafe that's about a mile off of the Freshmen campus. And their hot chocolate is like to die for. It is so good. So I probably go there every other day, if not more often than that, and do work there and drink hot chocolate.
And yeah, just to touch on off-campus eateries in general, Durham is rated by, I don't know, some magazine to be the #1 foodie destination in the country. So if you ever want to escape campus and eat off campus, you got plenty of options. Now we have a question from JDog1248. He says, can you speak about the dorm life? I keep reading that there are these great freshman dorms and outdated ones. Can you prioritize which ones you prefer, or is it random? Well, JDog1248, I have several answers to your question. To start, you can't really prioritize unless you're in a specific, like an arts living dorm. So my year, the Pegram dorm was for students who expressed interest in the arts, in theater, in music. And if they wanted, they could live in the arts living dorm, but the amenities of that dorm weren't like particularly special or worse than any other dorm. They just happened to live together. Other than that, and you can also choose to live in a substance-free dorm, which is a cool option for those who want that. Other than that, you can't really prioritize. Now, that's not a problem because all of the dorms are awesome and they all have their distinct advantages. So like one dorm, for example, which I think you kind of allude to in your question, has like a brand new arcade and movie theater inside the dorm, which is really awesome. But it's not as close to the freshman library and the freshman marketplace as some other dorms might be. So there's trade-offs with every dorm. Some dorms might be a little bit nicer, but maybe the rooms are a little bit smaller. The important thing is that all freshman dorms have a great sense of community that build up within them as the year goes on. And to this day, I still wear my All-Spa shirt. And in fact, after this video chat ends, I have a IM soccer playoff game with my freshman year hall. We're like reuniting 4 years later to play some soccer. So we also hang out, and that's cool too. Soren, I think, also wanted to talk about dorm life.
Yeah, actually, I can speak to this. I was in when I was a freshman, I was in one of the, probably the oldest dorm on East Campus, which is now deeringly named East House. It was the smallest, except for the one right behind it, which I forget its name. But I think the trade-off you get is, yes, it's a, not as great dorm. They have air conditioning now. We didn't have air conditioning. It was old. The floors were creaky. It was small. But our community was one of the best communities, I feel like, on all of East Campus. Like we were like known as like, oh gosh, they're East House. Like they scream East House, best house. They're so annoying, which we did. And we would all hang out together. We'd do work together and everything. But then I hear friends from like who were in like the new dorms, but they were massive new dorms. So nobody was able to like, people still like were senior year and they still ask each other like, oh, were you in this? Were you in GA? Like I wouldn't have known you because it was so big. So that's just something to keep in mind. There's always a trade-off for whatever you're looking for.
Thanks, Soren. Our next question asks, good evening. I wonder if Duke offers placement tests for freshmen if we haven't taken AP, which stands for Advanced Placement, for those of you who don't know. So, Anya, I think I'll let you take that question.
Yeah, sounds good. So when I was a freshman, an incoming freshman 2 years ago, there were informal ways to take placement tests for the math department. These weren't official tests, but rather a measure of how your math background matched up to the classes offered at Duke. But I don't know if those still exist. And so I would recommend you talk to admissions about that, see if there's anything in your packet. And if there's specific departments you're having questions about, reach out to faculty or the head of those departments that you can find online and just ask with them, because there may be ways, but because we've been a couple years out, I'm not sure.
Great, thanks, Anya. Our next question comes from Jennifer. She says that she was wondering about the process of joining a student living group. Yes, so that's a great question. Duke has a process called deferred rush, which means we rush and join said living groups in the spring, whereas I think most schools do it in the fall. I think it's best that we do it in the spring because that really gives you the fall to bond with people you meet in class, people you meet in your hall, and other like kind of more natural senses of bonding. But then as your eyes turn to sophomore year and beyond, and you start to figure out where you're going to live in the following years, you have several options. So one option is to remain independent. There's no shame in doing that. I was independent for my sophomore year and was totally fine with that. But you can also join either a fraternity or sorority life, which about 33% of students are involved in Greek life, or you can join a selective living group. And selective living groups are co-ed groups that live together and usually share sort of common interests. So there'll be like one that's like athletics geared. There'll be others that are kind of service geared. Some don't have like a definitive feature, but have like similar personality types. And the process is different for Greek versus SLGs, but it basically involves a series of social events. This can range from like open houses where you just go and talk to whoever you see, to like roller skating at a rink in costumes. There's plenty of parties and date functions along in that as well. And you wind up preferring the groups that you're most interested in. Anyone add on your Soren? Cool. All right. Next question. And if you have follow-ups, feel free to ask those too. This question says, are most freshman classes still on West or Central campus, or do they try to keep some on East for convenience? Anya, I'll let you take that.
Yeah, so it does depend on what you're studying or what classes you take your freshman year. If you are in Pratt, you are more likely to have a lot of classes on West just because the engineering quad is located on West campus. So if you want to take those intro level classes, there's a good chance that they might be offered within those buildings where the engineering labs are. My freshman year, I had almost all of my classes on East. I think I had one giant lecture that was on West, but I did get really lucky in that I never had to go too far. And most of those were 100 level classes, which are freshman level classes. So I would say if you're taking languages, if you're taking math, those are pretty likely to be on East. Very few classes are taught on Central, period. There are a couple languages that are, but I really don't know that many people who take all of their classes on Central. So you're likely to have a couple classes on West depending on what it is you want to study, and especially if you're in Pratt. But if you're just exploring your options, you're probably going to have a decent number on East.
Yeah, just to give another perspective, my freshman year, I think I had between both semesters a total of 9 classes. 6 of them were on West and 3 were on East. And I think that's a bit West heavy versus a lot of my peers. In fact, my second semester was 3 on East and 1 on West. So it was really just that first semester that was weird, but that's because I was taking very science heavy classes. Anyway, next question from JXL asks that, well, she doesn't ask, he or she wonders if having a car is useful for your 4 years at Duke. Soren, I think you have a pretty nuanced answer.
Interesting question, but very legitimate. As far as a car, it really depends on what you expect to be doing with your time at Duke. If you expect to be being out and in Durham and driving around, like needing to go off campus for a lot of things, you know, a car wouldn't be a bad idea, but I will offer you a counter solution, which is the moped. And honestly, it is the most useful, like best decision, best purchase I personally believe I've ever made in my life. I actually found one for Jackson and he like bought it off of my recommendation. So I cannot tell you how much time it saves. Like while the bus is good and everything and I'm glad Duke provides the bus. It is so quick, whereas taking the bus, the process of waiting for the bus, getting on it, and then like getting to West and then getting off and getting to your class, that whole process can take upwards of 20 or 25 minutes. With a moped, it's under 5 every single time. And you can park anywhere. It's free. Car passes are super expensive. If that's not a problem for you, that's awesome. But I know for a lot of students, not having a car is because it gets to be so expensive on campus. Also, lots of people have major issues with getting tickets on campus. And that's actually something that like resounds around campus. So just know that is a possibility. But yeah, so most people, however, freshmen generally don't have cars. If you are going to get a car, if you are going to bring a car to campus, it's going to be junior or senior year. And that's just that's more normal.
To reiterate, you don't need a car or a moped or a mode of transportation. The vast majority of students live on campus. On campus, infrastructure for transportation is solid. You definitely don't need one. And don't, like, this is a very small sample size of me, Soren, and Anya. So don't take the fact that two of the three of us have mopeds mean to be that everyone does, because that's certainly not the case. Additionally, there are lots of bicycle sharing programs that are starting around campus. I don't know the names of any of these companies, but we're seeing all these like orange, yellow, and green bikes pop up where you just scan your phone and you can take those for a ride. And then lots of people just have their own personal bicycles. Duke's a super beautiful campus. I don't know if you can tell, it's getting kind of dark. But like bikes are a great way to get around too. Skateboards, if you're going from central to west, are pretty useful. But you certainly don't need a car, and I wouldn't recommend bringing one as a freshman especially unless you need it to get home. So next question from Alice. Alice asks, hello, are there research opportunities available to the majority of students or typically only a select few? Anya?
Yes, absolutely. So I have never had a problem finding research stuff on campus, and I actually started doing research as a freshman in my second semester with Bass Connections. So Bass Connections is a specific program that's focused on interdisciplinary research, and you get to work with other undergrads, grad students, and a professor. And often you travel for those programs, and they're a lot of fun. But you can honestly get involved in research at any point in your Duke career. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it the moment you get on campus because you want time to figure out what you're looking at. Of it, every program I've ever heard of, every major has research opportunities. There are specific programs on campus that help connect undergrads with research. Obviously, there are some labs that are harder to get into. Like you may have heard of our puppy cognition lab, which is a offset of the biology department, and they actually are working on how puppies behave. So clearly that has higher demand than some other labs, but it's really easy to get involved. You can just email a professor and say, hi, I am studying X and I would love to get to know your research and see if there's any positions. And I'm actually in touch with the professor trying to research for my senior year. And even though there's not open spots, we're still meeting. She's finding other ways to connect me with opportunities for the fall. And then we're talking about ways I can get involved in the spring. So Duke is a research institution and they're really proud of that. And undergrads get to have a lot of say in that as well.
Thanks, Anya. The next question is from Joyce. She asks, did any of you participate in Duke Engage? And if you did, could you talk about your experience? So yeah, I actually did Duke Engage in Dublin. For those of you who don't know, Duke Engage is a service learning program primarily funded by Melinda Gates that allows for 8 weeks, some are 10 weeks, I think, of service learning in a different country. So you typically work with a nonprofit and work towards some sort of thematic goal of your Duke Engage program. So my Duke Engage took place in Ireland and was largely focused on the refugee community, I think is the best way to describe it. So I personally worked at a school where I tutored refugee children as a sort of RA role within the school, but I also had an opportunity to design and teach my own course. It was a phenomenal experience. Living in Dublin for 8 weeks was phenomenal, especially because I shared apartments with other Duke students, some of whom are still my best friends today. We got to go on trips on the weekends to see kind of the Irish countryside, and it was a life-changing summer, really. Then let's see. JDog1248 is back with another question. He or she wants to know if any of us participated in Duke Focus. If so, can you speak on your pros and cons? Also, did you participate in the Duke programs they offer in August prior to school starting? So, Anya, do you want to talk about Focus, and then I can talk about pre-orientation programs?
Yeah, so I did Focus my freshman year. I was in the Ethics and Global Citizenship Focus, which is sponsored by the Keenan Institute of Ethics, which is a subset of Duke Studies that's actually located on East Campus. So it was super convenient for me because Focus, essentially, if you're not familiar with it, consists of 2 of your classes in the fall plus a half-credit dinner course every week. So you take 4 credits in the fall, so half of those are a part of your Focus, and it's with the same 18 people. So each one is limited to, the classes are 18. I think there's 36 total. And so you all live in the same dorm together, but by no means are you only with those people. I was in GA, which is one of the bigger dorms on campus. So it was nice to know familiar faces. I would definitely say that was a pro. And then you get some variety in your classes. So of the 2 that you have, those are picked from 4 that are offered by your program. And I really enjoyed it because I liked knowing people and from the very beginning. And also, if you're anything like me coming into college and you don't know what you want to study, being presented with hundreds of classes during registration can be a little bit intimidating. And so Focus took off some of the pressure for me because I was able to say, okay, 2 of my classes are taken care of. And every week you get a dinner that Duke pays for where you get to talk to speakers and the faculty in your program and learn more about what you're doing. So we worked also with refugees. We did work on global economics and citizenship. I was in a service learning class, which means I got to do service work as part of my credit. And so those were all pros for me. I really liked being involved. The Keenan Institute is an incredible way to start your career at Duke. They're the people who funded or who sponsor the Duke Engage that Jackson was talking about earlier, and they have a number of other programs that are all really strong. I think the biggest con for me is that because I didn't quite know what I was going into, it didn't end up being quite what I wanted. So I'm interested in business, and it ended up being much more pre-law than I anticipated. I think I was the only person or one of a couple people who didn't want to go into law school in my focus. And so even though I learned a lot, I didn't feel like it helped me as much as some of my friends who did the neuroscience focus who wanted to be pre-med. I don't think that's a bad thing because if you're going to explore, you may as well do it before you declare your major. But I would say that if you really want focus to be something that kickstarts your major at Duke, to try and find upperclassmen who've done it on the Facebook page or from people you may know and get their opinion on it or contact the professors because it'll be a lot more valuable to you if it's something you can use all 4 years.
Thanks, Anya. I also did focus and I also highly recommend it, even though I'm not studying what my focus was based on. J-Dog, in response to your question about pre-orientation programs, yes, I did what was called P-Wild, which stands for Project Wild. My sister did P-Waves, and one of my best friends did P-Arts. So these are 3 of, I think, 5 or 6 different programs that we offer that last about a week or 2 in length right before orientation week in August. And I highly, highly recommend any of them. P-Wild is 2 weeks of hiking in the woods. It's the longest and oldest program at Duke and involves being split up into groups of 8 like incoming freshmen and 4 upperclassmen. And the 12 of you just hike around Pisgah National Forest in Western North Carolina, which is where the Hunger Games filmed. And you bond and you learn all this camping stuff that like I had never done before. And it's just this really good kind of nature experience that you have before you come to college. It's very reflective and introspective. And then you arrive on campus and now you are really close with those 8 other freshmen that you came in with, but you're also close with the wider, it's about 80 to 90 kids in general who did P-Wild, who had a similar experience to you and who you maybe saw in passing when you were on the trail. So I came in like having some really good friends that today are, you know, some of my best friends that fueled many of my most significant relationships while I was at Duke. And I'm incredibly thankful for having done them. And I think my sister feels similar, having done P-Waves, which is a kayaking, ocean, beach-based pre-orientation program. And my friend who did P-Arts, which is for people who are interested in theater and arts and music, that takes place in Durham. They all come in with connections and with a sense of community, and they hit the ground running. So, next question from Elizabeth. Should we take more classes we're interested in freshman year, or should we knock out some gen ed requirements? A balance of both, question mark? Soren, I'll let you take this one.
Hi, so good question. If you're asking my seasoned senior self, I would honestly say a balance of both personally. And I say this because you get this, my dean put it to me this way. You get 32 chances if you're taking a normal course load, which is 4 courses per semester, 8 times 4 is 36. And that's so embarrassing. 8 times 4. So you get, 36 chances. No, 32. That's so embarrassing. You get 32 chances to take classes with some of the greatest professors in all of America. So you should really take classes you are interested in. Do not spend, there's no such thing as spending too much time looking at course descriptions, et cetera, et cetera. Like, look them up, use Rate My Professor. It's very easy to figure out which professors are people's favorites, which ones are great. Like, so to answer your question, I suppose, would be take the classes you're interested in, maybe do 1 or 2 gen eds, but you should be able to kind of combine them. You should be able to take classes that you're interested in that will also knock out gen eds, and that's what the most important thing is. And I think we're going to kick to a question from Laura. How would you describe the atmosphere at Duke? Is there a focus on competition? And Anya said she'd like to talk about that.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And I remember it being one that I had when I was considering where to go for school, because I honestly was worried about that. I came from a very competitive high school and wasn't really sure I wanted that in college. And I have to say that in my experience, Duke has not been focused on competition like that. I do think it depends on your experience. So if you are one of the people who's going for pre-med and you're all trying to get into the same medical school, this will be true regardless of where you go for college. But there is more competition in that group of people because you're all doing more of the same thing. I have never found it to be where people won't help me or I won't help someone else because I don't want them to get ahead of me. I've been in curved classes and people are still eager to help each other. I remember Econ 101 my freshman year doing absolutely terribly on my first test. Like, I am no longer studying econ for that reason. And I was freaking out and didn't know what to do. And one of my friends who I kind of knew from class was sitting next to me and he'd done really well. And it was a curved class. And I told him why I was freaking out. And he offered to help me for the next problem sets and tutored me for the next test. Like, had nothing to gain by doing that. And I've found that to be true everywhere I go. Like, everyone wants to work together on the group projects. People are happy to help you. Now that I'm an upperclassman, like, I'm happy to give help to my friends who are in intro-level comp sci classes to do whatever I can to help them out and grasp the material. So I got this vibe from Duke more than any of the other schools I saw that people really do want to help each other. And while we are kind of competing for similar things, it's not competitive. It's just we all are really ambitious students with a lot of the same goals. But I've never felt like, oh, I can't tell people about this or I can't ask for help because they don't want me to do well. If anything, I found it the exact opposite and have actually made some of my closest friends because we've been able to help each other over like really hard classes and then gotten to know each other and realize that that's really great too.
Yeah, I would echo what Anya is saying by adding that people really want to be successful at Duke and they really work hard and the work ethic is impressive, but it's to achieve success themselves. It's not to put other people down or to try and ascend above their peers. It's just trying to be the best person that they can be. And I have loved a sense of collaboration that I sense on campus and really feel like now, especially as a senior, it's awesome to see my friends get these really like, you know, either high paying jobs or admissions to like Stanford or Harvard Law or admission to like Fulbright. I know 4 of my friends who have Fulbright scholarships, which is insane. So it's really easy for everyone to have success and everyone roots for each other to succeed in addition to propping up their own success. So our next question is from Sagar, I'm probably mispronouncing that. They want to know, are Pratt students able to be in a focus group or is the schedule too rigorous to fit a focus group in? Anya?
Yeah, so I am not in Pratt, but there were engineers in my focus and they really enjoyed it. I do think it's a conscious decision you have to make depending on how many credits you're coming in with, if you're going to be needing to take more maths than other people just based on what you're able to take in high school. Pratt, especially in your first year, is pretty rigorous. It's very defined what you have to take. But we did have people in my focus who did it. If you're really passionate about the subject, I would recommend you go for it. Things have a way of working themselves out. It's just not the more traditional way of doing Pratt.
Great, thank you. So next question, and I also have engineers in my focus to add. Next question, have any of you used or known someone who used the create your own major? What was the process like? So I think what the question is referring to is program 2, which is, oh, Soren, you want to talk about this. Awesome.
Hi. Yeah. So, I'm very familiar with, so Duke has two programs that are kind of create your own. The first one's Program 2, which Jackson just alluded to, and the other is the interdepartmental major. Program 2 is entirely create your own major. There's a long proposal process where you have to do a, significantly long proposal, write out exactly what you want to study, what are the reasons you're studying it, how is studying it at Duke going to be better than studying it somewhere else, and what Duke professors you would want to study under, who you want to be your advisor, which is awesome. I know some very, very academically and socially intelligent people who are doing the Program 2 major. Another interesting thing that they don't talk about often, which is also a really cool option, is the interdepartmental, which is essentially two double majors in half, or a double major in half. So like, I am now a visual media studies major, econ minor, but I started as a visual media studies and econ interdepartmental major. And what that means is, like, instead of taking 14 classes in VMS and then 14 classes in econ, I take 7 classes of VMS and 7 classes of econ, and that makes one major. And you can do that with any major in Trinity. I'm honestly not sure about Pratt. Interestingly, I have found that when I was the interdepartmental major, employers loved it. They thought it was so interesting and cool that, like, Duke allows you to do that. And then, like, the reasons behind why I chose those two, I mean, it was just a really great selling point. So if you want something that you can really sell to employers well, that would be a really good option.
Great. Thanks, Soren. And for those of you who want to maybe read about a specific Program 2 example, my friend Kelsey Graywill is doing a major called Evolutionary Neuroaesthetics, which combines biology, neuroscience, and the arts. So you can look up her website, klgraywill.com. Gray like the color, will like Will I Am. Anyway, next question is from Ariana. She says, hi, if I want to do a pre-orientation course, i.e. P-Waves, will I be able to move in before the start date, or will I have to move in at the normal time? Ariana, you will move in the same day as everybody else, but you are not at any disadvantage. P-Waves, I know it specifically comes back like the morning of, so you get there at the same time that all your new classmates would. You might book it to the showers because there's a chance that if you did P-Wild, you haven't showered because you've been in the woods for 2 weeks, but you move in on the same time. You can bring all your stuff with you, to my knowledge, and they'll put it in storage for you. But you can't move in early because usually there's still summer programs going on at the end of that summer. All right, keep those questions coming in. In the meantime, we're going to talk a little bit about the freshman dining plan. So it's very complicated. Soren or Anya, do either of you want to tackle it? I can, no, that's a no from Soren. Anya's question, I can do it. So, dining as a freshman. It's a very complicated but rewarding experience. You all eat at this place called Marketplace, which offers buffet-style meals, all you can eat for breakfast and dinner. For lunch, you can pay with what are called food points, which every freshman gets a certain allotment of, but they will spend the majority of their meals eating all you can eat breakfasts or dinners or brunches. So it's changed a bit since I was a freshman, and I think since Anya was a freshman too. But you get all 5 breakfasts during the week, and then you get, I believe, 9 combined dinner and brunch swipes, which means you can get dinner every weekday, brunch on the weekends, and dinner on the weekends. And that's really all you should need, and then you could use your food points for lunch. But you would just swipe in, and then you have options from stir fry to pizza to a grill to a salad bar to healthier options that I should know more about but don't, and this entree rotational situation where there's like rotisserie chicken or fish. Depends on the day. So there's tons of options, and you can mix and match every day. And Marketplace, I love. It's a true haven because you walk in and you don't need to have dinner plans because your whole freshman class is in that dining hall together. So you can just walk in, find some friends, find some new friends, sit with them and eat. And it's very communal. The tables are very long. It's kind of like, if any of you have seen Harry Potter, those long tables in the Great Hall, but you know, you don't have to just sit with the Gryffindors. You can mix and match with the Hufflepuffs and Slytherins too. All right. Now we have this question. Oh, never mind. We're ignoring that question. So, because it's, yes, gotcha. Anya wants to, Anya, you want to talk about themed dinners?
Yeah, and then I can touch a little bit on that question that is part of the other question. We are not ignoring you. So to start, the question was about food swipes. So the distinction there is that swipes are something that's built into the freshman food plan only, and they are strictly for use at Marketplace. So the question was, is it true that you can only use 2? Assuming that you were talking about swipes, technically yes, if you're talking about it per day. You get 1 swipe for breakfast and 1 swipe for dinner. That said, if you don't eat breakfast at Marketplace, you get an equivalency of food points that can be used towards your lunch. I don't know how much that is now. I think it varies, or they've changed it since I was a freshman. But yes, so you get those swipes, and then depending on how many you use for dinner, that changes how many you get for brunch on the weekends. The details of that are a little fuzzy for me because I am old and it has been a while, but I never found myself running out of swipes. But I also didn't wake up for breakfast most days, so that's something you can figure out for yourself. I didn't find myself going hungry as a freshman. So those swipes are separate from food points. When you're an upperclassman, your entire meal plan is food points, and so it becomes a little bit different. But swipes are explicitly for Marketplace, and honestly, they're incredible, and I miss them because Marketplace does these incredible things called themed dinners, which are like a piece of home away from home if home was a place that threw you like parties for dinner. So a couple times a semester, there will be these themed dinners around like Disney, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Tonight actually is the cruise dinner. And basically on these nights, Marketplace goes all out and the staff decorates the entire space. And sometimes they'll dress up or they'll get like little greeting people. I remember there was one year that they all got into these like mascot suits of animals, and it was like a Disney themed thing. And the food is out of this world. They turn all of the traditional stations into like a bread buffet. I think at the cruise, they have lobster and crab, a sushi bar, a dessert bar. Everything just kind of gets amped up. And so swipes are the best way to do that because as an upperclassman, if you want to go, a swipe is worth a lot of food points, and so it's not the most convenient. But because they're already built into your food plan as a freshman, you can go to all of these. And I remember as a sophomore making my friends who were freshmen swipe me into Thanksgiving dinner because it was so good. So, and I think this is like a very common thing. I'm pretty sure I saw most of my freshman class there when I was a sophomore. So swipes are honestly great. People will complain sometimes because if you're not interested in what they're serving that night, it can be a bit of an issue. But since I left East Campus, honestly, they've expanded the choices so much. So there are some regulars, but there are other things that change every single night. So I like going back during lunch when it's on food points as an upperclassman because the food is so good.
Great. Thank you, Anya. And for those of you who are wondering what she meant when she said Disney themed, with Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, and I think the princesses from Frozen. All right, so Monique wants to know about the dorm bathroom situation. So I can speak to male bathrooms, and 2 of you can speak to female bathrooms. They're communal bathrooms. I mean, they're not like glorious, luxurious situations, but they're cleaned all the time and are pretty nice. I would bring a pair of shower flip-flops as kind of an insurance policy against the floor, but it's not a disgusting situation. Like, they're fine. There's curtains in the shower for privacy, and you can ask to have your bathroom locked for your whole hall if that's something that you want. But to each their own. So I don't know if you have more comments about girl bathrooms, Anya and Soren.
Not necessarily about gendered bathrooms, but just that every dorm on East except for Wilson has communal bathrooms. So it's just the structure of the dorms. And honestly, like, communal bathroom sounds a little scary, but it was totally fine. But Wilson has suite style dorms, meaning that a couple different rooms they share one bathroom that I believe, are responsible for cleaning. I could be wrong about that. But it's more of a homey feel. But honestly, communal bathrooms aren't terrible. I didn't find anything particularly notable about women's bathrooms. I thought they were fine. And yeah, like, privacy is not an issue. The asking to have it locked is actually a anonymous vote at the beginning of the year. So if it is something you want, you can indicate that vote with your RA and no one will know, and it's totally fine. So they take those procedures very seriously, and like, it's a good bathroom.
Awesome. Thanks, Anya. And just to add, like, as an upperclassman, I've lived in an apartment on campus the last 3 years, have my own bathroom that I share with one roommate. It's really nice. We have our own shower. We have a sink. We have all the things bathrooms have. There's a bathtub. Okay, great. Next question. How many AP credits can you use if you're in Trinity? Anya?
So there's not one answer to this question. If you're talking about the number of credits you can use to count towards graduation, the answer is 2. That essentially means that of the 34 credits you need to graduate, 2 of them are covered by AP exams you may have taken, depending on what score you got. And I believe the admissions page has like a spreadsheet of what you need to get on the exam for it to count for a due credit. Now, even though you can only use 2 to count towards graduation, there's no limit to how many you can use for placement. So if you took the AP Psych exam and you got a 5, you don't need to take Psych 101. Same for math placement, which I think is where this is the most helpful. If you've already taken AB or BC Calc, you probably don't need to take 111 or 112. You can probably take multi. So it really just does depend on what you're studying, but you can use them for placement informally, but only 2 will show up on your transcript.
Great. Thanks, Anya. This is the last question. What has been your favorite thing about Duke in your time here? Soren, I'm going to let you start.
This question always gets me every single time. I have spent a lot of time in the past 2 months contemplating this, and I know I'm going to be leaving and going into the world, and really at the end of the month. And I think what I will always take from Duke is just the people and the communities that I've been able to find and have throughout my time at Duke. And I think the most beautiful part of all of that is the fact that it hasn't been the same community the whole time. I started as a freshman, and my freshman dorm was so tight during the fall semester, and the memories I made with them were amazing. And then I joined a sorority, and I was in this sorority for 2 years about, and that was a super strong community for me at that point. And then I was part of a Duke Student Broadcasting, the Student Broadcasting Association. We used to hang out together, and we'd get lunch or drinks. And honestly, that's how Jackson and I are so close, because we did Duke Student Broadcasting together. And then my community now is within my religious community. I'm a Catholic, and our community now is so strong, and it's beautiful. And I don't regret at all not being in one or the other at a different time in my life. They've just grown with me, and I've grown with them. And I honestly think that's the one thing that I'm going to come back for my 20-year reunion and just be able to see these people and have these memories.
Anya?
So for me, I would have to say the mindset of Duke has probably been my favorite thing, and it's the one thing I wasn't expecting when I came. Like, the extent to which an institution can have a global mindset isn't something I was aware of, but I went abroad last semester, like I mentioned. I was doing the Duke in Madrid program, and it legitimately changed my life. Like, people will always say it's super cliche, like, oh, you went abroad, your life has changed. But truly, I had the most incredible experience learning about other communities and other cultures and getting to work on my Spanish and being taught by Duke professors who were from the area, who were passionate about educating us, and knowing that I was coming back to a place that was going to help me continue that, and coming from a place that helped me prepare for that. I remember telling my Spanish professor my sophomore year that I wanted to apply for Duke in Madrid, and she was super encouraging. And on the last day after I turned in my exam, she handed me a guidebook to Spain and wanted me to have a great time. And we got caught up after it. When I came back this semester, like, through my focus, through my Duke Engage, through abroad, the university is really committed to making you a global citizen. And I've been more exposed to and have learned more about the cultures that I am not a part of at Duke than I ever would have imagined. Like, I come from a pretty homogenous area. And while my family has moved around quite a bit and I'm familiar with my own background and how it fits into the United States, I was like, my eyes have been opened to so much by going to Duke. And because it's not something you learn in a class or put on your transcript, it doesn't feel very real. But like, I leave Duke and I realize that I have seen so much of the world just here in Durham, and it is like the most incredible, mind-blowing thing. And I have like a new family in Madrid who I lived with. I would move back there in a heartbeat. Like, these are the kinds of experiences I don't think I would have had if I didn't come to Duke, and they really are important to me.
Anya, that was very eloquent. I wish I'd let you go last so that I wouldn't have to follow that up. But here we are. Yeah, what Soren said and what Anya said are probably what I would normally answer between the people and between the sort of global opportunities. I did Duke in LA. I think all of the Duke in programs are phenomenal. But if I were to say something a bit more casual, I would say that Duke basketball has been one of the most special things for me. And I say that hoping to reach people who aren't necessarily thinking that they're going to fall in love with Duke basketball when they arrive. Because I loved basketball coming in, and I knew I'd be a big Cameron crazy. But what's so amazing about Duke basketball is not all our on-court traditions or our world-famous fandom. It's the way that it's able to bond us all as a university, and our subsequent school spirit and Duke pride is very strong as a result of that. And I think it's because of that Duke pride and that love of school that I've been able to talk to so many alumni who have been incredibly helpful in preparing me professionally. I was fortunate to get an internship at the NBA last summer, and that was entirely because of a Duke woman who graduated 30 years ago, who she and I were able to bond because we had that same love of Duke that we'll treasure forever. And there are so many Duke alums that are willing to pass the elevator back down to help out graduates because they know what that experience is like, and you can have things in common with people who are 50 years your elder, or 50 years from now, I'll be able to still find something in common with a current freshman. So that Duke family, the sense of forever Duke, has been really important for me. And I think that kind of comes from Duke basketball. Duke basketball is also just really fun. Maybe won the championship my freshman year. But I've loved Duke, and I love how everyone else loves Duke and how everyone else raises each other up. So that's going to pretty much wrap us up here for today. I want to remind you all to follow @Duke Students on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and Spotify. Am I forgetting anything, Anya? No, I didn't think so. Cool. We have 7 things. You should follow us. It's @Duke Students. Thank you all for joining us. We hope to see you here next fall, or at least Anya does. I'll be gone, but if at homecoming you see me, I'll be the guy with really blonde hair. Say hi to Soren and I. Soren and me. Wow. Thank you all so much. Take care. Bye-bye.